Today I want to talk about how I am curing my same face syndrome using my Canson Mixed Media Sketchbook, my favorite purple pens, and regretfully these Ohu markers. And I'll be using Pinterest for all of my references. Yeah, let's get into it. I don't expect this to come as a surprise, but I have same face syndrome, and that's where when every face you draw tends to look the same. You know, maybe you change the eye color or the hair color, but it's the same face in every drawing. So I've decided to take it upon myself to practice different faces and just draw as many faces as I can to learn the different features. And when I'm doing this, I'm going to focus specifically on like eye shapes, the eyelids, the nose shape, the lip shapes, the overall head shape, and then all of these different elements and their relation to each other, so like the distances between the eyebrows and the eyes and things like that. I'm not going to focus too much on hair because I don't want to get overwhelmed. But I'll probably still draw the I am drawing the hair. Look at that. Okay. So yeah. Also, I already have like a basic style to ears that I kind of like, so I'm just probably gonna draw the same ear on every person. But besides that, something you might also notice while I'm sketching these faces is I'm not particularly interested in capturing the exact realism. I prefer like a sort of semi-realistic cartoon style. I don't know if there's a name for that. So I'm going to be simplifying a lot of the features, or even putting my own like sort of spin on them, like I mentioned with the ears. I did a little bit better on some of them than others, but you'll see as I get along with that. So basically I'm simplifying all of the facial features to something that I can grasp a little easier. So when I draw the eyes, you may notice that I'll draw the eyes in the shape that I always draw eyes, and then I'll chip away at that shape to draw it so that it looks more like the reference. One of the ways I also do this to sort of maintain my style, with my air quotes, is while I'm using the reference, I'm not limited by the reference. I think that's something people struggle with a little bit, is just because you're using a reference doesn't mean you need to make your illustration look exactly like the reference. You have as much leeway as you want, okay? Just work at it. It's not that important. Just have fun and focus on the things that you're practicing at that moment. You may also notice that I am drawing in pen, and I made a whole video on why I like sketching and practicing to draw in pen, and that was posted last week. So if you want to check that out, I'll have a link. So for all of these illustrations that I'm drawing today, I used Pinterest as reference, and I would definitely recommend, if you would like to do the same thing, use keywords like faces and portrait. A lot of really good, faces come up, and draw as many of them as you can. While I think it's important to remember that many races, have different defining features, it's important to remember that each person has their own face. So that might sound really stupid or kind of like a joke or obvious, but I've noticed that a lot of artists that I used to look up to, or still do, they sort of have their generic face for each race, and that is still same face syndrome. So you gotta really work at it, and you have to, the more faces you draw, the easier this will come. So I think it's just something to be aware of, and as soon as you're aware that you have same face syndrome, it's time to start practicing, okay? Once you know it's happening, you need to work at it, okay? So that is what I'm doing. I don't expect to get better overnight, but I'm working at it, and definitely drawing from these references really helped me just in the 2 hours that I spent sketching all of these. I feel like I have a better grasp on what can change about a face to make it look like a different person. It's basically everything, which is obvious, but learning the different relationships between eyebrows and eyes, and the distances between noses and eyes, and all of these different things which are pretty apparent when you look at someone, but you're not thinking about them. And I think just drawing more faces is really what's going to help. So you really just have to basically, well, I don't know if this makes sense, but while it's obvious that everyone's face is different, the more faces you draw, the easier it will be for you to mix and match, different features. For example, you may draw a character and you draw their nose, but you're like, oh, but I imagine this character's nose, you know, to be a little bit more turned up at the end or something like that. And the more faces and noses that you've drawn, you'll know, oh, I know exactly what that would look like. So you can erase the nose and like draw a new nose. And there you go. See, the more practice, the better you are. Also, using references is always a good idea. There's never a bad reason to use a reference, okay? Like, I believe a large percentage of art school is just drawing from reference, so I might have just saved you a couple $1,000s, you don't know. You're welcome. An excuse I've heard for someone who has same face syndrome is they'll be like, oh, but that's just my art style. Like, I can't change that. That's going out of my art style, and I can't, like, that's just the way the faces look in my art style. And I don't think your art style should ever be used as an excuse. Your art style is constantly evolving, so if you're using it as an excuse to hold you back, don't. Just mold it into, you know, the best that it can be. And growing beyond your same face syndrome will never bring your art style in the wrong direction. I'm just gonna point that out. Another tip I could give you is actually if you're designing a character and you're not entirely sure what you want them to look like, but you have sort of a vague idea, what you can always do is look for an actress or an actor that would play them if it was a movie, you know, like that, and look for references of that person and draw that person from different angles and use that as a base to design your character. And once you have, you know, the base, you can adjust anything you want because you're not limited to it looking exactly like that actor. You know, you can change their nose out or move their eyes and give them different eyebrows, give them a unibrow. I don't care. You can do whatever you want because I mean, that's the coolest thing about being an artist is just how unrestrained we are. We can do literally anything, but I feel like we just put ourselves into little boxes and we force ourselves to, you know, to stay in that box when you can literally do anything. You could draw anything you want. No one can make you draw anything unless they're paying you, but I mean, if you're getting paid, that's a different story. I'm talking about for fun. We can draw whatever we want, you know? We can draw a red Solo cup with legs. It's whatever we feel like drawing. And I don't know, I think that's why I love art so much. Even though I tend to draw the same thing over and over and over again, and apparently the same face over and over and over again, it's still fun. But I had so much fun drawing these faces, and like right now my brain has been so foggy that like I haven't been super creative and I haven't been, you know, getting outside that box like I was just talking about. That sounds stupid now. Whatever. But drawing from references is not only helpful in helping me, like, you know, learn to draw all these different faces and facial features and things like that, but it's just been really calming. When you're drawing from reference, you have that base to start from. You don't have to worry about that like fear of the blank page where you don't know what to draw. When you have a reference, it's kind of like an instruction manual. It's like, hey, just draw this. So, but I mean, like the instructions aren't laid out specifically, but you know, it's like the template, you know, and I think it's just very relaxing and it's just a fun exercise. And if it's helping me cure same face syndrome at the same time, I am not gonna complain. So in summary, if you haven't already guessed, use references. They help you in so many different ways, and they can help you learn how to draw all sorts of different things like hands and feet, and even faces. So yeah, draw lots of faces. The more you draw, the better you'll get at it, and the more you'll understand different facial features and what makes people look like themselves. It's usually proportions and the relative locations between eyes and nose and mouth, because you can have two people that have the exact same shaped eyes and the exact same shaped nose and the exact same shaped mouth, but they look like different people, you know, like siblings. Sometimes they have very similar facial features, but they look completely different, and that has to do with the relationship between, you know, the distance between the nose and the mouth and the nose and the eyes and different things like that. So, and the head shape too. So yeah, I think the more that you draw them, the better you'll get at it, and hopefully we can learn this together, and maybe it'll even show up in my art in the future. I hope that my experience drawing faces is, you know, going to translate into my art further down the road, not just in these studies. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope this might have been helpful in some way, and I will see you guys soon. Yeah, I hope you have a delicious evening full of waffles. Bye.